Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, or good day wherever you are in the world, and welcome to the next episode of No Dice, No Glory. Sponsored by our jobs that actually pay us money, we're coming to you not at all live from an abandoned arms factory deep under a mountain in West Virginia. We are proud to proffer to you the finest in wargaming coverage. Without any further ado, let's get this show on the road.
Hey, well, thank you, Sean, for that, once again, a great introduction, and I look forward to recording with you again. Hey, so this is the Great War podcast that you guys have all been waiting for some time. And with me, of course, is, and you've heard him before on Tactics Talk, Austin, the champion, Copeland.
Well, thanks, Mitch. It's lovely to be on air with you. It's been a while since we recorded, but I'm happy to be here again.
And the Twin Cities Madman, a guy that we actually started talking originally about the Great War when we were spoiling it, and I realized this guy is a gamer just like us, and he's one of our I wouldn't say he's the newest writer because we picked up some more, but we'd like to welcome first time to the podcast, Tom Gall from the Twin Cities.
Thanks, Mitch. Delighted to be here.
Hey, so Great War. I think it's great. And, okay, so everybody, let's let the cat out of the bag. Yes, if you're going to call me a shill on any podcast, it's going to be this one. Because as you guys know, I work with Wayne Turner on the book and this upcoming book, and I am just so excited about it. And, Tom, you've actually played some games.
I have. Actually,
what's
hilarious is before any of this had even seen the light of day or even so much as a whisper out in the public, I'd been sort of trying to mix in version 4 and some creative ways to play Great War already, using the existing stuff. And it's like, yeah, this is looking like this could be a really good thing. So now that it's here in my hands, it's awesome.
Yeah. And so we got our hands on the book and really we're just going to spoil the hell out of it for you. Let's talk a little bit, and then Austin, I really want you to weigh in on this one. I love the history of the Great War, and from playing this game a lot of times, if you want to learn how to use infantry in Flames of War, it's not so much Team Yankee. This is the game for you. And Tom, I don't know, do you agree with that, or?
I do. It's certainly an infantry, central game. Certainly all the support options that you build around your central infantry force are very important as well. Yeah. So you can't discount those mortars. You can't discount, the potential to have tanks or your artillery and all of that. But you're right, Mitch. It's an infantry game.
With it being infantry centric, what just blew my mind the first time reading through this was you buy a tank by itself. You buy a anti-tank gun by itself. It's not a platoon of this, a platoon of that. But then you see the infantry squads and in some of these lists for some of the countries, you can take 8-10 platoons of infantry, but you can only take 2 anti-guns. And I'm not talking about 2 platoons of 4. You get 2 guns. So, to see all, 80 stands of infantry running across the field supported by a mortar and a 25-pounder like that. That's actually, I should say 18-pounder. That's actually pretty interesting to see how infantry plays such a big role in this game vice the other Battlefront games.
And then, of course, the other thing that you have, just like World War II, is we have cavalry, and it's both mounted and dismounted.
The other one, too, and I pointed this out to when we spoiled it, is like we all own Flames of War and machine gun platoons. And let's be honest, we never use them. Maybe the Germans because you can attach in World War II. But everybody's like, well, I have nothing to pin the enemy with. You got machine guns, and they're pretty expensive in this game.
Well, think about it. In Flames, what's the best way to pin infantry? A light tank or a German armored car or, in late war, a Sherman tank. I mean, these are basically mobile machine guns. So when you don't have a mobile machine gun, what's the next best thing? A machine gun.
Yeah. And in this case, too, you got the ability to do indirect fire with machine guns to do that pinning fire and go out to 40 inches doing so.
This is the only game I've ever done a machine gun bombardment in, and I did them a lot.
Well, it's what they would do, though. I mean, that's one of the nice things about these rules. It's like, this is period tactics. It's, blaze away over their heads to kind of pin them down.
Yeah. So let's go over this beautiful book. It is how many? It's 238 pages, which is nice.
It's huge. I mean, I don't know, Mitch, if you remember that original booklet that Battlefront put out in, 2014?
Yeah, it was 14 pages because I was reading through your article and I'm like, I believe it was 14 pages.
Yeah, I got to go back and refine that. But yeah, it was just this little bitty book, and then it got a little bigger. Then it got a little bigger, and now it's huge.
Yeah, and it's going to get bigger.
Yeah. Especially compared to the recent books they released. This is a massive book. I'd have to pull out some of my old Market Garden and stuff like that, but this is a large book, which is good. Which there's a large variety of forces. Definitely, you go to the store, you buy it, and you take it home, and you have enough stuff to keep you busy.
Yeah. Well, let's look at this book too. It contains the entire version 4 rules, which are going to be the universal rules used by all games. And if you've seen Nam and Fate of a Nation, which if you haven't, you should have, these are the same rules that you will find in those books, especially till you get the special rules, special equipment, and looking at where Team Yankee and version 4 is going to go in 2019. So the first 65 or so pages, it's going to be the same for all games. So you don't have to relearn Team Yankee and, play this, play that. Because, I was playing a game on Sunday doing a demo, and I'm like, oh, wait, that's not in this game,
And with this being the universal rule set, what I like that Battlefront's taking their time to do is they've taken some of the errata from Lessons from the Front and from the Team Yankee, I don't know what they call theirs, the errata, but they've made some of the changes, and you can see it going from the version 4 rulebook for mid-war to this. You see they've changed some of the wording, they've changed some of the verbiage, that they can actually have a solid rule set that it sticks out.
Yeah, it really does. And, it's nice too, where there's these little spots, interspersed too, where they kind of draw it into, all right, here's the specific rules, regarding Great War, like, the land battleships and things like that. But yeah, I couldn't agree with you guys more. It's really nice to have everything be standardized across the different time periods. Cause I know in amongst my friends when we're playing Team Yankee and then we go back to version 4 Flames, and we're sitting here going, okay, how do we do this again? Is it this way or is it this way? And it drives batty.
It leads to a lot of fights between good friends. So let's just delve into these special rules. And the first page you come to is special equipment. The only big thing that I see here is Landship and Rough Ride, which, let me go over Rough Ride real fast. The Mark 5 Asterisk tank, which I have 2 of, and it's a beautiful model. It's just an extended British tank, and they would put troops in there, or it was the idea that they would put troops in there. I don't know if they ever did, but as soon as they dismount, they're pinned because they're kind of punch drunk.
Yeah, they did, because the fumes that would be coming in, they just because poor guys would get sick.
And the other one too, which a lot of them would carry sleds full of equipment, and that would have been cool to put in the game.
Yeah.
Let me see the Landship. They look to me as they're really are just streamlined from Landship if you played the previous version.
The Soviet T-35s. That is a very streamlined. They're going from like a page and a half of special rules to basically, if you can parse down a page and a half of rules to a paragraph, not even a paragraph, but a nice little sentence. It's nice.
Yeah, I think it's neat. I mean, these were huge tanks. The German A7V had what? You and 25 of your friends can ride around the countryside.
25 of your closer friends, I suppose.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. It seems like they could fit pretty comfortably. I mean, that thing is huge.
It is a monster. Looking at special weapons, flamethrowers, which you had to really take those in the previous book if you were attacking, but now they stay around.
That's one of the things I love from the V4 moving on in general, was flamethrowers stay around, and it's a continual weapon instead of a one-shot deal. So it's nice to see that that's just a V4 common thing now instead of V4 mid war and the little errata for V3 late war, early war. But to see that now it's gonna flamethrowers. This is what they do.
Yeah, I don't know, Tom. Did you take them a lot?
Flamethrowers? Not too often. But I did on occasion. I mean, I
think I'm going to take them all the time now.
Are you?
Well, they're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I could cook you.
So
Yep.
I'm going to have to be the Great War noob here, but I'm trying to find the stats for them. Are flamethrowers still anti-tank 2 in this game, or do they operate a little bit differently?
I don't know.
So I'm trying to find a thing for them, because if they're AT2, that's great. AT2 with an auto firepower, the best armor in this game that I've seen is a 2.
Yeah.
So I mean, flamethrowers are actually really useful against vehicles.
Yeah, they're not very. They're pretty brittle.
Yeah, I want to see how they play. Mobile Fortress is a new one, and that is for the Mark IV female and the A7V. They roll 2 dice in assault, which I don't remember from before. I don't think they did.
That's actually pretty cool, especially because you can only take the single tanks in platoons. So sending in one tank, I mean, just think about playing in any other game you play. If you send in one infantry stand or one tank into an assault, it's not going to last very long. So rolling 2 dice in assault is effectively like bringing 2 units into the assault, kind of.
Let me see. You got overhead fire. That's no change. No HE. Pin rate of fire 1. Oh, and then here's the one I always liked was trench gun. Trench guns can either enter cross and be deployed in trench lines as if they're infantry teams, so they can stay around.
So is this kind of like the heavy weapons team rules from V4 then?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's
so
always
now
nice.
So now we're going to get to the... Go ahead, Tom.
I was about to say I did find flamethrowers. They are anti-tank too.
Yeah,
okay.
So, flamethrowers are going to be a really good weapon against vehicles then.
Yeah. And of course, now you got
also
armored
infantry.
and you got armored cars in there now too, which...
I know which ones I'm taking.
Yeah.
So here's something I know, Tom, you were excited about. Cavalry.
Yes.
They can dismount. Once they dismount, they can't get back on.
Well, that's okay though. I mean, I'm not disappointed by that. I mean, you go back historically. I mean, they would, when you're near the trenches, they're not on their horses anyways. They're on normal bog standard infantry, just like everybody else. But once they're out, in amongst the countryside, that's where they can and that's where they should shine.
It says here that they have a better blitz rating, so we're gonna have to see.
And they move further.
But dismounted, they still have the better blitz rating? That I do not know. I have to go look.
The rule says a cavalry unit has a better blitz rating, so we'd have to get down to the actual card to see. But it would appear that a cavalry unit, just in general, is a better blitzing unit.
And then you have the scouts, the sniper, which I believe is the same sniper rules from the Stalingrad books. And then you have spearhead units, and we'll talk about those, I guess, as we start talking about some of these units.
Yeah. So going back on it, Austin. So cavalry blitz is on a 2+, so that's their skill. So that'll be super handy.
I was about to say blitz and follow me in those orders. That's one of the things that made V4 so different from version 3.
Yeah.
Was it gave you the tactical ability to do just a little bit more. Is it game breaking? No. But it gives you the option to move your guys where they need to be, get them where they need to go, and to do those things better. For example, Germans or in Team Yankee attach your HQ to these units. When you are able to do these tactical moves better than your opponent, it gives you that tactical edge, which could be the difference between a win or a loss.
Yeah. The other one too was everything. Most of your teams are going to be single shot rifle teams, so not picking up that extra +1 when they move, I think, is going to be pretty good.
I agree.
Yes.
Never incurring less negatives and always positives is always a positive thing.
Yeah. All right. So I think we should talk about the first boys up here, and it is the Germans. And the Germans. Now, this is going to be a theme for all these nations we're going to talk about. Everything is broken down to either an infantry formation or an assault formation. Where the infantry formations for the Germans are the Standard Infantry Company and the Siegfried Stallone Company, and their assault is the Stas and the Jaegers. For the most part, the support is pretty much unchanged, I believe.
Yes, so support is just like in V4. Like you have a entire support option that these are the support that any formation can bring. And then you have your formation itself, which is a makeup of these particular units. So you have support that is unique to your country, and then you have your formation units, which are unique to the formation.
Which is kind of neat, though, is the sniper is now a formation choice, not in the HQ anymore.
Yeah.
But that is a theme that we'll explore a little bit.
Right.
Tom, which forces did you play in this game?
So I have both Brits and Germans ready to go. I've got some oddball stuff too that I'm kind of eager to put on table in some way. Like I've got some Turks and some Russians. But
I do want to talk about that before we get off the podcast.
Yeah.
So the infantry company is, there's no more fearless. But it's essentially a confident, trained company, and it's hit on the 3-up, which, well, you're going to take some lumps. But for the most part, this is really unchanged. Just that the points are now at the 100-point level. And I believe the Minenwerfer, nope, it's still a 2-up to hit. But it's in the last version, your infantry company had the option of taking flamethrowers, anti-tank rifles, and yep, I think that was it. And snipers. Now the sniper is a separate support choice, and you could take the flamethrowers and the anti-tank rifle for each platoon, which I think is a lot better.
Yeah, and I think the Werfers were the same. Weren't they attached to the HQ and now they're their own section?
Yes, you're right. So it's their own section now. 100% right. I should have had the old book with me, but I think that gives you a lot of really good options. And the fact that you can take this infantry with a Stas platoon, which you could in the last one, or a Stas company, I think it makes the Germans, who, other than adding 2 lists unchanged, I think it gives them a little bit more flavor. One thing the Germans do not get is cavalry, and I don't know how you guys feel about that.
Well, I am not a student of World War One. I am getting more and more interested in it due to this game and some other videos and documentaries I watched recently. But just as a point of conversation, I guess, you never really heard about German cavalry in World War One. Like I heard about War Horse, that movie that came out I guess now 10 years ago.
Yeah,
you hear about the British cavalry and you hear about that, but German cavalry, I heard, I knew about them, but
yep, they existed. They were mostly on the Eastern Front, and they had the German Lancers. They were around the Battle of Tannenberg and stuff. They did some pretty good work.
And if this was a game on 1914, German cavalry, the Hussars, the Lancers, would play prominently because, as you read about the race to the sea, it was like the British BEF coming up, and really was there was always German cavalry always around.
Yeah.
They were that good. But by this time in the war, this takes place in 1918. So let's be honest, Germany's been starving. What are you going to do? You're going to bring horses into static warfare? No. You're going to have it pull horses. You're going to use them for food. So it's historical, but it would have been kind of neat to see German Lancers or Hussars. That's me.
Well, I guess there's always flavor. You could always put a little flavor in there, I guess.
Yeah, you could. I think though they did the right thing by, when they chose 1918. I mean, you get the whole array of weapons, and you're sort of at the pinnacle of World War I warfare.
Yeah.
If you roll back to 1918, the amount of machine guns that they had per company that went down. The mortars and things like that. That was still something that you wouldn't have seen as much, and certainly not on the Allied side. They weren't even fielding them yet. So things would have been, it would play a lot differently than it does now. And I think they did the right thing.
Well, if you went much further back than 1918, you wouldn't be able to bring the Harlem Hellfighters in, or the Americans in general. So
yeah. And here's the interesting thing: like by this time, the Allies really wanted to use cavalry as an exploitation force. But if you see pictures and read accounts, they mostly were just clogging up roads behind the battlefield. They really just never got in there. So, yeah, it would have been kind of neat to see them. But I don't know. Whoever wrote this book didn't include it, like an idiot. And just to be honest with you, the list in this I did not do with the cavalry list. Because I stayed true to 1918, so all the lists I gave him, I didn't even think about cavalry in 1918. So stupid me. Talking about blitz, the Germans do get infantry VOR is still in the game, so they get a better blitz move.
Yeah.
But I mean, the infantry is essentially, they're good. You don't get the elite infantry, but you have so many options to take the place of attacking infantry. So let's go to the old Stas. Like people are going to fast forward. They're going to be like, I don't want to hear stuff that I already knew was there. I want to hear about the new stuff. Stas, they get trench fighters, spearhead, which I think is amazing, and they can night attack.
Yeah.
So night attack is one of my favorite things to do in the game, and seeing that Battlefront is now letting certain formations have access to night attack instead of just a mission focused thing is such a nice thing to see.
It is. Yeah. It is. I'm kind of eager to do some midnight trench raids. I think that's a thing that's got to be done.
So as we go through the Stas, just keep in mind out there, the infantry platoon at its highest iteration is 7 rifle teams, 2 MG teams, and of course you could bring those flamethrowers, anti-tank rifles, and you can rifle grenades. But let's look at the Stas platoon. It is also 9 stands. It is 20 points.
Yeah.
But look at its stats, gents.
Yeah. Well, the thing that really pops out to me for the Stas platoon, so other than being hit on 4s and fearless for motivation, is they are machine pistol team, the Mauser pistol teams. So you have 2 MG teams, but the majority of your guys are these little pistol teams. So it's a good thing you're doing trench raiding, because you're not going to do much shooting from range with these guys.
No, you can't. They're not meant for that. And the reason is they blitz on a 2-up, and they hit an assaults on 2-up. These guys are going to clear out trenches for you.
Yeah.
And if you're an attacker, you need them.
Yeah.
And with the V4 rules, how you were saying with the infantry company, putting a platoon of these guys in as a support choice, an absolute, I think, must. This is how you're going to get people out of place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I think the nice thing that goes with them is the Stos machine gun platoons too. They've kind of got the equal, blitz move on a 2+, and so they can kind of keep up with the the body of infantry and kind of lay down some fire to support them.
Yeah,
that's true, and maintaining that full rate of fire, because they go down to rate of fire 2. So Blissett move that 4 inches and still lay down that heavy volume of fire. That's going to be a nice thing. A 2-up is almost an auto pass.
So I'm gonna quiz Austin, because he should be on page 88. Look at the Stas machine gun platoon. Is there anything you notice about the stat line?
So on the stat line, something that no German machine gun I've ever seen before, a bombardment.
Right?
Isn't that awesome?
It is.
That's never a bad thing, I guess. But an auto cross, that's a heavy weapons team.
No, look at the anti-tank rating, sir.
Anti-tank 3. What are these? Like 50 cal machine guns? Anti-tank 3.
They had armor-piercing bullets to deal with tanks.
Oh my goodness! And you don't even get a choice to like pay more. It's just straight up AT3. Well, now
you
I
are
feel
paying
dumb.
more.
Well, okay, 6 points a heavy machine gun is not that bad for AT3. Again, going back to the best armor in this game is AT2, or tank armor 2. So that's incredible. That's really neat.
Yeah, these. I mean, the Stas platoon is good. It also comes with its own Minenwerfer formation, and they're expensive. But when I played Germans and I knew I was going to attack, I loaded up on these. I believe they were like 360 points under the old point system. Tom, you could correct me if I'm wrong on that one.
Oh, I don't have my book around, so I can't correct you, Mitch. But that sounds right. I remember they were pricey.
They were pricey as hell.
Minenwerfers, are they like direct fire mortars? That's what I'm getting. Like, this is how you're going to get rid of machine gun bunkers and stuff like that.
Well, what do you notice about the Minenwerfer that's not there? The bombardment line.
Yeah.
Right. So it's a direct fire mortar. I mean, it has a 2-up firepower. I mean, that. You can't go wrong with that.
No, you can't. I mean, you're going to definitely take out, an individual team, or at least have a real good chance.
And it's not even rate of fire 1. I mean, it has a halted rate of fire of 2, so it's not even. It's not even like a 1 dice. Let's see if I hit.
Yeah, these things were like, they're not like the Stokes mortar. They don't. When you think of a mortar, this is not what they look like. They shot this big, like projectile, and it went boom, and it was bad for a lot of people. All right, so you guys ready to go into that first new unit?
I mean, this is all new to me, so bring it on.
So, and this is one of the ones I wrote. I really wanted to put Rommel in the game, and I wanted to put like Württemberg Jaegers, but I knew the game was going to take place on the Western Front. So I did some homework, and I found this Prussian 27th Jaeger Battalion that was made up of ethnic Finns. And did a lot of research on them. Well, you're right. I tried to stay true, but they were essentially on the Eastern Front. They really didn't see any combat, but they were just such an interesting unit. So I figured the Jaegers need to go in there as an option, because German Jaegers, they had their role throughout the war. Not so much written about on the Western Front, because they'd be a waste in trench warfare. But towards the south, where the mountainous parts of the trench line, you had a bunch of them there. These guys are also, they're really big, because it's 11 rifle teams and 2 MG teams, but they're 20 points, and they don't hit 2-up in assault. That's the only bad thing about them. But they are also, and they're confident veteran, but they're huge.
Huge units. Mitch, you're leaving out one thing. These guys have spearhead. Every Jaeger platoon has spearhead.
Yes.
So, in a game where moving across the field is a bad thing, being able to start halfway across, that's really nice.
Yeah. And that's what Jaegers were used for. But it's, with them you can take, the usual upgrades, the rifle grenades, the flamethrowers, the anti-tank rifle. But, these guys are a little bit less knife fighters than the Stas, just as expensive. And, they're not fearless, but they're still pretty good units. The interesting thing about these guys, if you want to paint them, they're painted the same way as regular German infantry. There were some differences in the uniform, but not enough to kind of go over, at 15 millimeter. They come with their own machine guns,
which are still AT3, which is ridiculous.
All German machine guns are AT3.
I'll just hit on that one a few more times.
They could take a veteran anti-tank gun, a Minenwerfer, and I think these guys, they give you a different option. Especially if you're playing with one of the non-trench scenarios. I think these guys are really going to be mobile. And, for 42 points, which is the minimum you have to take if you're going to take a company, you're getting 27 units or 28 units. they're huge.
And given the the V4 style of formation support, you can grab in an individual core STOS platoon if you want, or you can grab in a core infantry platoon and mix that in. It's like this is a nice kind of middle range unit between a STOS platoon and an infantry platoon. I really like what you did here, Mitch.
I thank you.
Well, Mitch, because people are stroking your ego right now, I'm going to get on the bandwagon.
No, it's okay. I can't take compliments.
Something I really do like about this, and this is something I struggle with sometimes in Flames. When you take a formation, your formation is confident trained, fearless fed. It follows this. With these, you can take veteran AT guns or trained AT guns. It changes on the formation you're taking. So in the Jaeger company, your 3.7 centimeter AT guns are all veteran, but if you go up to the infantry company, it's just a normal non-veteran infantry company. So, and the points change accordingly. And you can take those as support from the support option. So you can choose I really need an anti-tank gun, but I don't have 8 points, but I do have 6 points, So the being able to choose how your force is going to function, I think that's a really cool thing that is not in any other game that I've seen quite yet for list building.
Yeah, and a lot of it is really historically accurate, where the German army was a lot of it, it's the unit that's fighting in front of you. If you're an artilleryman, it changes every 2 weeks. So the fact that you can have support from veteran units is not uncommon with green troops up front. So It gives you a lot of options on, you don't have to take the expensive support.
That's neat. I'm really excited for the Siegfried Stuhling, and I hope I pronounced that right. That's the next company in the book on page 95. And for everyone that may play this game and say, well, I would like to play, but I don't want to have 100 infantry teams, this is the list for you. It's almost nothing but gun teams.
Yeah.
You have your little HQ unit, 2 little machine gun teams, you got your 1 little infantry platoon, and then just gun team after gun team after gun team. I would never want to go against this with an infantry force.
Yeah, well, here's the thing. You can only take that 1 infantry platoon. That's it. That's all you get. And it's 15 points for, you get an extra, they're beefier. It's 10 rifle teams with 3 medium machine gun teams. They are reluctant. However, they have a special rule called concrete dugouts. So if they're in a trench line, gun pit, or strong point, they have a better rally rating.
Oh, that's pretty neat.
Yeah.
So if they're actually in a fortification, they're a little bit braver.
Right.
Yes, because they're not.
I would be a little bit braver if I was in a concrete dugout than if I was on the in the open.
And then here's the crappy side of that is that if you're taking this, that you have to, when it comes to putting out reserves, these guys cannot be held in reserve. But why would you want to?
Yeah, you wouldn't want them back there.
No, you definitely want them on the front line as soon as possible.
And, I think another piece of this too, Austin, to look at is, while those, gun teams may seem on the surface pretty scary, they're, units with 1 gun team. So you're going to be confirming hits if you're doing indirect.
That's true. You will be confirming hits. I mean, just the artillery in general, unless you're taking the support troops with 4 gun battery, and I mean those are expensive, upwards of 40 points for a platoon. I'm more excited for the Minen warfare. I mean, in this list you can take 1, 2, 3 of them. Yeah, 3 of them.
Yeah.
7.62 infantry guns, and then a machine gun platoon. So for 23 points you're getting 4 machine guns. That it's just a lot of gun teams, which I don't know. Having not played this game extensively and just looking at lists and list building, I think this on the defense is going to be a ridiculous list to be able to move.
You make it attack.
Well, you can if it works out that way.
And remember, not every scenario has trenches, so I
Right.
think this is a good way to get extra support, cheaper support options, because everything here is relatively cheap. So you can't take this and expect to do well. Now, for the guys out there that don't play tournaments, that want to play a more historical game, was one of the reasons why I wanted to put this in.
Yeah.
It's really a defensive list. This is what the Germans look like on defense. If there was something I could add is that they had to take with the defense in depth that the Germans had, they didn't man the front lines, shoulder to shoulder, but they had counterattack forces. I would have loved to have put a Stas platoon in here as your counterattack force, and it always starts in reserve. But
sure.
Well, the neat thing about version 4, though, is you can bring a Stas platoon in this formation.
Right.
Yeah, you just have a second formation.
Or just, it's a black box platoon, so black box, and there you go.
So, yeah, I mean, and to be honest, when I wrote this, I didn't think Wayne Turner would go for it. So, thank you, Wayne. Now, when we come down to the German tanks, they're expensive. You have the A7V, and I have a couple of those, 19 points, but stats relatively unchanged. It gets the tank unit, land ship, mobile fortress, special rule, and then with that, you can also take only Mark IV captured British tanks, which is historical because that's what was captured at Cambrai the year before.
Right.
But, the Germans' tanks, the only tanks I've ever taken in the tournaments that I played with this are the cheap French tanks. And when we get to the French, you'll see why.
So you'll have to bear with me. What is the purpose of a tank in Great War? Because for 19 points, you can bring one A7V, which is hit on 3s and has a front armor of 2. Now, granted, It's got a lot of it's got that 5.7 gun. It's got a lot of machine guns, but an AT3 heavy machine gun could bail this thing out, and then the 3.7 or your artillery piece, it seems really easy to kill these tanks.
Yeah, it's the land ship rule that keeps them around, and some of the other rules. The fact is that, how's best to explain it? These kill infantry in scores, but any support weapon can kill them.
I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, and they were that brittle, so I don't begrudge the stats one bit. But as kind of Mitch was pointing out, as these things are kind of moving along across the battlefield, they get to fire everything. This isn't just, they've got 3 machine guns, so you get 3 rate of fire 3 from one machine gun and 1 from the next one and 1 from the next one. No, you get to fire them all.
It's a Death Star.
It is, especially
total
against
Death Star. No, I didn't take tanks a lot in games. Tom did. I don't know if you did.
Not really. I mean, we'd have like 1 or 2 occasionally, and kind of try to use them, but it was not a mainstay.
I suppose it's a bullet magnet.
Yeah, like if you want that King Tiger that your opponent sweats the entire game that never does anything, that's tanks in this game, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And
the thing is if somebody's artillery is going to be used to be shooting at this tank, they're not beating up on your infantry, and your infantry that is going to come in and win the game for you.
Yeah.
So the bullet magnet idea kind of wins the day here. Here, look at my shiny tank. Shoot my shiny tank.
Really? Yeah, that's really what it is. Like, I would actually put my infantry behind this, and I never did that in Flames of War, because that's what you're shooting everything with, is the tank. And then the infantry is removing barbed wire, which is a big thing in this game, and then going to the attack, especially with a lot of teams having trench fighter. I'm killing infantry because infantry is what's holding your trench line. So, yeah, these guys they're beautiful models. I mean, I know, Tom, you have to own a couple.
Oh, yes. I've got several.
And I even got some of the Mark IVs painted up as captured tanks. But if you're taking Germans, you have so many really neat options. that, for 19 points, you take a tank. Stas platoon's 20 points. I'm going with the Stas platoon.
Yeah, I am too.
They're killing everything. So let's go to the go ahead, sir.
I was scrolling down to the next page. At the 7 point, the field gun, that's cool, one field gun. But then on page 102, you get the actual artillery battery. And
which is not in the original game.
46 points for 4 field guns.
Right.
At veteran. Yeah. You could take them at train for 36.
Yeah, 36 whole point. This seems ridiculous.
It is
high costed.
I'm glad they're that expensive though, because the thing is when infantry was taking the field and it was going for the opposite side, the artillery bombardment was done. They just would not continue bombardments while their men were hitting the other side's trenches. That was not a thing.
I was about to say, it wasn't World War I where they kind of tested the idea of the rolling bombardment, and that was towards the end of the war.
It's where they invented it.
Yeah, that's where they invented it.
So yeah, it's neat to see that you have the option. Now you're going to pay for it, but it's there nonetheless.
Well, and given that you now have repeat bombardments, if you're going to have it and take it and use it, you got to pay for it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, these are infantry killers, just like they are in World War II. But here's my 2 cents on it. They had the sale. I own 2 of each type of gun. I did not buy another 2.
So it sounds like you'll be spending 23 and 18 points.
Yes. Yeah, and I be honest with you, they're AT-8 direct fire, 2 shots. I'm using these to kill tanks. I'm using these to kill machine gun platoons in nests. That's what I'm using these things for.
Yeah, I mean, and why wouldn't you? Because once it's gone, and then you can focus on killing infantry.
Yeah. So the last part of the Germans is that instead of pretending that you had a nest or pillbox, they're actually selling them now. And I cannot wait to see these. Now, I built some nests that look like the one on top, but you can buy these, and really you don't buy them. You take your machine guns and put them in either nests or pillbox. Especially if you're defending, you would think that you would do that. However, even if you're attacking, I would still put my machine guns in at least in nests, and it's so they can bombard and so they can cover your infantry.
Well, the neat thing with these nests, I don't know if you all ever used the Tobruk gun list from Hellfire and Back, but putting machine guns in nests or bunkers, stuff like that, it just makes them so incredibly survivable and so incredibly more useful because, you pinned me, but not today. You auto unpin and all this good stuff. And it's I don't even think it's a point. Any mission that has machine gun bunkers, you can just put them in this. So for free, if the mission allows it, you just make your HMGs God status.
Yeah. Why would you not do it?
Right.
It just, you're hit on 2s instead of 3s or 4s, but your survivability is much better.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere.
I mean, that's why you take it. I mean, it's a concrete building. It's hard to make those things go anywhere.
Yeah, I'd like to see what they look like. I have a feeling these are going to be medium infantry bases, where the pillbox are probably going to be large bases. But I think they come fully painted, so I know I'm ordering some.
Okay. Yeah, I kind of wondered
painted. That's got my money already.
Yeah, I wonder how these. Just looking at the picture that's in the book, it looks a lot like the ones that they used to sell that were not painted. Well, and they were on a standard medium-sized base.
Yeah, we're gonna have to. You know what it is? I'm gonna have to buy them and tell you guys about it. I'm gonna bite the bullet. I'm gonna buy it.
Well, anything to make you spend more money, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I wanted to name your. Yeah.
I don't even care if I have to paint them. I think they're cool.
Yeah, I'm gonna get them even if I don't use them or not. So there's the Germans. From plain Germans, my options got a lot bigger, a lot beefier. I could really mix and match my force to give my opponent a headache if I'm defending. If I am If I have to attack, I have forces here. I feel with the Germans, they have the best support options. With the anti-tank guns, the Minenwerfers, they have so much stuff. You don't need tanks, folks, but you should buy it because it's a good model. I love playing the Germans in this game. I think that they have some great stuff. And I'm going to take which of these 4 lists are you going to take? And the answer is yes. I'm going to mix and match. Tom, what are you going to do with your Germans?
I think it's going to be a lot of Jaeger as my core, and then building out from that. And sometimes, mixing in some tanks, sometimes mixing in some other things just for fun. I like what you did. I having all the variety now is pretty exciting.
Yeah, I'm excited about this. Well, let's go to the British, which British were in the first booklet. The British have 3 types of formations: your line infantry formation, your assault, which is an elite division, and then the other is your Anzacs or Canadians, and then your cavalry. So some interesting things here that's different than the Germans and previous, that you could take French tanks.
Yeah, that's kind of neat.
Which is, yeah, and then you could take up to 2 platoons of the Austin armored cars, which, oddly enough, they named after the Masters champion from 2018, Austin Copeland. Now, he's putting his baby to bed, so he's not here, so we'll have to tell him about it. You can hear in the background, that's him like, Daddy, I don't want you to podcast, but
I don't want to go to bed. I want to stay up and listen to you talk about Great War.
So I bought the British. Be honest with you, I never really, other than playtesting the Anzacs and Canadians, I never played with them very much.
I did. And the only reason why I did is because my son always wanted to play with the Germans. So
well, there you go. Okay, there you go.
I'm playing Brits today then.
But the British look a lot alike from the last book. 2 compulsory for line infantry. You could take machine gun platoons, but you could take up to 4 infantry platoons, and you could take up to 4 trench mortars, which I was about to say platoons. It's not. The line division really is confident trained. It's hit on a 4-up, which Germans are hit on a 3-up for the same. So but the good thing about the British is that you don't have to pay extra to get the rifle grenades, which really come in handy every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm seeing, what's neat about the Brits, though, they're a little bit cheaper infantry, and you can bring more of them. So while the Germans kind of maintain that elite status, you can have machine gun platoons, you can have rifle platoons, you can have more of them. So it seems like it's going to be a little bit beefier of a force.
Yeah. I mean, the real British that, this, the line infantry division, it's good, it's cheap. When you get to the elite, which is the same way, that you're paying premium for them, man. You're paying 15 points for a 9-stand platoon.
Yeah, which is expensive, but I mean, these guys are hit on 4. They're confident. They have a better counterattack. Good old British bulldog, and they have that trench fighter. So they're hitting on 2s in assault. So I don't know. I think these are pretty fairly priced for what you're getting.
Yeah, not bad. And at 11 points too, you're getting a couple of loose guns mixed in there as well. So rate of fire 3, at least when stationary.
Yeah, you can't go wrong at 16, and those are only assault 3+. So, the +1 for a weapons team, it's, I'm only hitting you on a 3 in an assault. So,
well, I'll tell you what, I think, and I said I didn't play them very much, but what I will play a lot of are Canadians. And you're saying, why Canadians, not Anzacs, not elite? Well, that I can explain why. They essentially are the same formation as the elite, where you could take, 4 infantry platoons, 4 trench mortars. But for the Canadians, instead of taking the machine gun platoon, you could take the armored autocar section for 20 points for 2 HMGs, and look at its halted rate of fire, my friends.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous. 12? Mitch,
Yeah.
are you trying to like make the next Ferdinand here?
No, so I didn't. I didn't put armored cars in these. This is a Wayne Phil thing. I got to be honest with you. I do remember reading about these, but I've never seen a picture of them, and I never recalled like any big story. You know, like in the middle of the battle, there was an armored auto car, but you have to buy 2 for 20 points, and you get 24 shots from those guys. I think they're pretty good. I don't know what you guys think.
Well, basically, what I'm seeing is a universal carrier, kind of. Zeros all around, hit on threes. These are your armored kind of MMGs. Is what I'm looking at this as.
Yeah.
But I mean, not only do you get that 24 shots, but you can also do a bombardment with them. Yeah. So I would be interested to see what their guns. Is it 2 guns firing or 4? Because the picture, it looks like 4 machine guns.
It's 2 HMGs.
It is 2. So
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. HMG having a rate of fire of 6. It's got a cross of 5 though, so this isn't going to be crossing trenches or really difficult ground very easily. On the other hand, though, yeah, this is going to put out a heck of a rate of fire.
I mean, when you reach out 24 inches and most gun teams only shoot 16, like that in and of itself is useful.
Yeah.
Yes. So if my opponent does not have, especially if terrain's blocking and they're coming at me, I'm going to use these guys I'm going to blitz them forward if I can, and I am just going to pulverize your infantry with 24 shots of love.
Now the thing these are not going to like stop and so like these cannot rush. Their tactical is 8 inches. Their cross country dash is 10. So I mean, for the most part, these are slower than infantry. So they're not going anywhere real quick. But this is there's an infantry platoon that made it through. Blap.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this is what I'm doing to stop your attack until I can get a counterattack going. Plus, they look cool as hell.
Yeah.
I mean, they're little wagons of death. I mean,
yeah. Yeah. And then if you take the Anzacs, you can't take these guys.
Yeah, so that is a Canadian exclusive. I just saw that in the formation. Canadian division.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that should make you happy, Mitch. I know you like to play those Canadians.
I like the Canadians. They're assault divisions. They get night attack, and only the Canadians can swap out the Vickers machine gun platoon for the auto car. But I don't know, man. I just want to get these guys on the table. I think they're going to look really neat.
I think they're going to look neat, but I don't think they're going to look as neat as the next formation. The cavalry squadron is what I am so excited for. And during the sale, this is what I bought. I bought everything I would need, what I thought I would need. So there's a few things I'm going to have to get.
You're going to have to get horses.
Well, no, I already have all that. I'm going to have to get another trench mortar to be able to fill the trench mortars. I did not know that was going to be a big thing in this list. So this is the list that I'm excited for playing, is the cavalry squadrons.
Now, Tom, you did add forces to the game. You augmented it quite a bit. Did you have cavalry in that?
Yes, I did.
And how did it play?
It played very well. So when I did that piece of work, I was more trying to model 1914 and 1915 and sort of the Eastern Front and sort of the fluid things that were going on between Russian Cav and German Cav. And it was some really fascinating games that got generated from that. So I'm really, really glad you put a cavalry squadron in here. I think
that wasn't me. That was Phil and Tom.
Yeah, well, you can still take the bow for it.
Yeah. Now their cavalry section is not mounted. But so when these things are up for sale, got to be honest with you, I'm probably going to get 2 squadrons of them.
Yeah.
Because at 17 points per platoon, 2 points for the command, I'm going to use these to play around and have some fun.
Well, this is going to be your fast moving force. I mean, on a 2+ for blitzing, you're adding 4 inches to your tactical, which is going to get you to 12, which is pretty fast. But then, if you're okay with not shooting, and you're already slow firing, just dash them once or twice, and you can get 9 stands pretty much anywhere you need to on the board. And if you want to dismount them after the fact, now you have infantry that are 20 inches ahead of where you normally would be on turn 1.
And don't forget, when you move into assault, these guys don't move 4 inches; they move 6.
Which, if anyone has played Soviets in the new version 4 mid-war, you will know that 6-inch assault radius is just stupid amazing.
It is. It's awesome.
Now, you do lose the rifle grenades, and you go down to 1 Lewis gun team, but it's still 9 stands. And this is definitely a must for the collection when it comes out. Yeah. I probably would like to play these guys, obviously, in non-trench scenarios.
Yeah.
I think that's where they're going to shine, just because it's mobility is their strong point. And in a trench scenario, you're not going to have as much mobility. It's going to be limited based on volume of gunfire coming at you.
Yeah, because these guys have a cross rating of 2 up. They do have a cross rating. I mean, they're not just in a standard infantry team. So, yeah,
which is good. Going to be... And that's a carryover from the new V4, like, a 2 up cross rating. It'll slow you down a little bit. I've played cavalry a little bit in the V4 for late war, for early war, crossing it over. It slows you up a little bit, but it's the next best thing to an autocross.
Right, and you can still shoot your rifle and your Lewis gun.
The only thing I wish
mounted.
The only thing I wish would have been to put a Saber or a Lancer team in here or something like that.
Oh, give them some sort of benefits in an assault.
Yeah.
Which would be great. And I know that cavalry in the Great War was more of a rush up, dismount, and fight, more so than what they wanted it to be, which was more of that, cavalry charge with lances.
They still gave them lances up until 1918.
Mm-hmm. This is true. The Polish are my early war army I'm going to, so Lancers, they're just amazing.
So I think this addition to the British is totally neat. Now let's go to the Austin Copeland armored car.
So I saw this, and I was really excited that you all named an armored car after me. And only after I looked it up on Wikipedia did I realize it was a real thing, actually.
It was, yeah.
Yeah,
but for things. These are great price. 9 points for 3 cars. Now you don't get 24 shots from these things, but you do get 16. Which you can't go wrong with that for 9 points.
Well, it's 4 shots halted, but also 4 shots moving.
So either way you look at it, you're getting points. Now it's the same thing as the other armored cars. This is a slow World War I vehicle. You're only moving 8 inches. You're not going to get anywhere quickly, but it's nice. Now these only do shoot 16 inches. These are not heavy machine guns.
That's correct. They're only 6. It's still a 6 firepower. Got a 5+ cross, but still, you think about it, you go for that 9 points to get 3 in the unit. That's 12 machine gun shots.
I'm picking this up. I don't know if I'm in the... Like, you could take this with any British force because it's a support option. I don't know if they're going to see the table that much.
Really? I feel that they're going to see the table a lot. These are the cheapest MGs you can get.
Yeah. I'm thinking I'm fielding these.
Okay, I'm going to have to try it, gents. It would have been better because they did have some armored protection if they were, front and side armor of 1. But, yeah, when it comes down to the points, but you still are hitting a 3 up. It's confident trained. Yep. I think as long as you can keep these guys alive, I think it's going to be pretty good.
I think so, too. But you're talking about your front armor. Front armor 0 for an armored car, especially because your next unit there is that Mark IV female, and it's just got a 1 all around. So you're talking about tanks now with a armor of 1.
Yeah, 1 pip up for double the price.
Is not bad. Yeah, you're not lying. I mean, now and these are leaps cheaper than the German one. 13 Vice's 19 points.
Yeah, but that's the crappiest tank.
That's true, but I will say crappy tanks in a big enough volume make for better tanks. And at 13 points, you can take 3 of these for the price of 2 German tanks. So Now, granted, the Mark IV female only has MG, so it's not going to really do much against that German battleship, land battleship, until you pick up the male version, which has the 6-pounder gun.
Yeah, and one thing you notice too, you could take them green or veteran.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And from us that have played Flames of War version 4, especially the British, and Tom, I don't know if you played the British in Flames of War, but I know Austin and I did, but this is the largest British tank section of any book ever.
Oh, yeah. There's a whole lot of stuff here. I am a little wondering, so you mentioned green and veteran. Is the copy we have what's going to print?
Yes.
So what is the difference that you're paying for in points? Because what I'm seeing is the green and veteran are pretty much, no, they are identical.
Well, the skill is different.
Okay, yeah, your skill's a little bit different. No, skill 4, 4, 5, and 5.
The veteran Mark IV, the skill goes down to 3 and 4.
Oh, well, apparently I have a old copy then.
No, I bet you're looking at the female, because the female is a 4 and a 5 as well for veteran.
Yeah, it looks like there's no difference between the two.
I wonder if that's not a misprint.
I have found the first of the misprints. It's okay, community. I did it for us.
Oh, wow. I feel bad because I also helped proofread.
It's okay, Mitch. It's okay.
I'm not seeing any difference.
Yeah, because the hit-on values are exactly the same.
Yeah. Well, I guess
this will be in the first errata, and they'll change it to a 3 and a 4. So
now these guys are slow. They, unlike the infantry that moves 8 inches, these move 6.
Well, you know what's interesting is these were the precursors to the Matilda tanks, which move 6 inches. So I think that falls really well.
Yeah. Have you ever stood next to one of these things in person?
I have never been able to see one of these in person, but I've seen pictures of people standing next to them.
Yeah, they are just enormous. And then if you can look inside. I'm lucky I got to do this in the Belgian, I think it was the National Military Museum, I think was the name of the place. It's in Brussels. And, the engine on the inside of this thing is not very big. It's pretty tiny. So, that small little engine, even this huge, tank, I can understand why it's a 6-inch move.
Yeah, and if you go to the Imperial War Museum, which you have to, you have to. Yeah. You can. They actually have it. You can walk through one. And
good Lord.
yeah, it's you would expect from what you heard about the engine and the fumes knocking guys out that it would be a humongous engine, but it's not. It's like very surprising. It's not as big as you would think. But yeah, I guess I'll have to send them a note. But
I'm sorry, I did not mean to trounce on anyone's parade.
Yeah. So going on to the male tank, between green and veteran, there is a difference, the skill.
Yes, which is good. You pay more, you get a better tank.
And you get the 6-pounder, and 2 6-pounders instead of
Sponson guns.
Yeah.
So what is neat, so this is a new rule from Flames of War and Team Yankee with these side-mounted guns. And it's basically a 180 and a 180. Like, you can shoot in certain areas with these guns for the side-mounted special rule, which it's a really neat rule. I really like the way this is going to play.
Yeah, and then you do have that front self-defense machine gun as well, but I don't know if they took that out. I'll have to look.
It looks like there's just a left and right side MG, tank weapons, tank unit landship, mobile fortress. I don't see any self-defense gun.
Yeah,
they don't mention it.
That was in the other.
These things have a cross check of 2+. These tanks,
well,
they may go slow, but there's nothing that's going to stop this. Hide in woods. Okay, I have 2-up cross check.
Yeah, these things are pretty interesting. And then you get into the Mark Vs, which I got to be honest, I know they sold a separate model for it, but I just use my Mark whatever's interchangeably. And you can get a female or male. But with the Mark V, you could get the hermaphrodite.
Now the hermaphrodite is just basically a like stretched out version of the Mark V, correct?
No,
No.
it is one.
Or is the Mark V the stretched one?
The Mark V asterisk is
Yeah.
on one side.
Okay.
On one side, you can have the 6-pounder and the machine gun. On the other side, you could have 2 machine guns.
Yeah.
Oh, so
Yes. So half
broadside
female,
is
half
a
male.
thing.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
And what these tanks would do is, before they would go into a trench, is they would straddle it, or like drive,
Halfway
horizontal
over
to it, and then just rake the enemy trench line with their guns. And the 6-pounder was very good at taking out pillboxes, machine gun nests, the like. But here we're getting real expensive because the hermaphrodite Mark. Actually, look, the Mark 5 male is 25 points.
Which is expensive for one vehicle. It's not a platoon of 3 or anything like that. It's one tank.
Yep.
Right.
Which is not any better armored than any, your cheap 13-point tank. It's the same armor.
Yeah.
And
you're getting
You're getting a better blitz move, though, with your Mark 5s.
Yes.
Which is good, because you don't want to be in the open for very long.
Yeah. And then it goes down to the stretchies, which is the Mark 5 asterisk. I have 2 of these because they're cool looking. I'm not going to use them as troop carriers, but they can carry 3 passengers each.
Well, that's what I wanted to point out. I think that's kind of neat. So they can carry 3 passengers. So, 19 points is kind of expensive for a troop carrier that's just going to go up in flames. But, if you can get them across the field, this at least gives them a save against machine guns and stuff like that.
And your troops come out pinned, though.
Yeah, they come out pinned. And the other thing, so like you, Mitch, I've got a couple of these too. I've never put troops in them ever because I looked at that movement ramp and like, oh, I can move 6 inches. And of course, under the old system, it was, you move 6 inches as well. So it's like, well, it's the same movement. And so as long as I'm moving through, shell holes or anything like that, ruined buildings, it's the same movement rate.
Yeah, it's just
so
not.
It probably would be better just to run across on foot.
Yeah. Yeah, because look, you're not going to get your whole platoon in these things with 3 each.
Yeah.
No. You would need... You need a whole brigade of these tanks, and you're just not going to be able to afford that.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking if you were a soldier in 1918, you'd be about that excited to ride one of these too.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't know about you, but it's... Yeah.
It's all right. I'll be outside taking my chances. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm good. And plus, you can't fit horses in there, and, But, it's... And I'm going to say something in general, and I'm going to shoot this out there that Battlefront doesn't say how many points these games should be played at, but we know that the objective in the 100-point system, or we call it the 100-point system, but with the version 4-point system, it's 100 points per game. I think that if you're going to do a infantry battle, it should be 100 points because you could take some fun stuff. I think if you're going to throw in tanks, it should be 200 points just to get that real tank flavor in there.
Well,
sure.
You'd need 100 points to just bring 4 tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, they add 100 points for tanks and 100 points for infantry companies, and you have a decent battle. And that's the thing with this. Adding 100 points to tanks isn't like doubling, so in V4 right now, in mid-war, if I said, okay, you have 100 points to build your infantry company and 100 points to build tanks, that was a ridiculously huge game. If I give you 100 points to build tanks, you're bringing 4 tanks, which likely will probably not be alive in turn 2 or 3.
No. Unless you take the next tank, the Whippet.
The Whippet.
The Whippet moves 8 inches.
Woo! We're flying now.
Now, I've taken these. Just because they're kind of cool looking. And believe it or not, I think the crew stood in that box at the end of it. They're kind of neat. I think I have 4 of them or 2. I've got a bunch of them. They're not bad. It's rate of fire 6 machine guns, halted or moving. They're okay.
Well, you get that armor 1 all the way around. So instead of 3 000 little armored cars for 9 points, you get 1 tank that has armor that can actually, sit there and take it from machine guns.
Yeah. I'd still, instead of taking 2 of these, I'd still take the Canadian auto cars.
Well, I mean, yes, you would obviously take 24 shots instead of 6.
Not everybody would.
Yeah, actually, that kind of brings up an interesting thing, because didn't the Whippet have a machine gun on the front and on the back?
It did.
Okay.
Well, maybe that's what gives them the rated fire 6, because you'll remember from the armored cars, those were only rated fire 4. So these are rated fire 6. Maybe that's how they.
Yeah, and I believe
show that in the game.
these are a 360 field of fire too.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, because it's like one machine gun on each side. Now we get to the British artillery. Ubiquay.
Little spendy.
Yeah, 50 points. Oh my goodness, 66 points. All right, so we're going to do 100 points for infantry, 100 points for tanks, and 100 points for artillery. Now we've got a good game going.
Yeah, I don't know about that. 66 points for veteran for 6 guns, and I believe the Germans do not get 6 guns.
No,
Yeah.
this is I think a British only was the 6 gun. This is the whole.
Yeah.
This is the whole caboodle right here.
Yeah. You think of all the bonuses you're going to get with having 6 guns in a field battery. I'm glad it's 66 points.
Well, and you have no dedicated spotter.
Right.
So,
No. Yeah.
all right, why do I take artillery? To kill tanks. And if
Well,
I'm going to do that, I'm going to run a German force because I have dedicated anti-tank guns.
That's true. The British do not have any 3.7s in their
Yep.
lists.
I was about to say, the downfall of the British list is defending against tanks.
It
Unless
is.
Unless you take a mail tank or a field gun, you have nothing to defend yourself against tanks.
That's true because their machine guns aren't AT3 for some ungodly reason.
For some ungodly reason, they're not 3. So the downfall of the British, the downfall of the British Empire is no anti-tank weapons whatsoever. The only thing you have is tanks, field guns. Field guns are very pricey, so are the tanks. I think if you want to attack, that you take the Canadians with the night attack and not worry about having to fight against tanks. They're slow. You can get around them. Use terrain. But yeah, that's the downfall of the British.
I guess my strategy going against these guys would be basically like fighting a King Tiger. You just ignore the King Tiger, let it do its thing, and go win the game some other way.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, the British are fun to play.
I mean, I hope so because I just spent $150 on them.
Yeah, they're fun. They're fun to play.
You'll have fun, Austin. You will.
Good.
I'm going to play one of these new lists. I'm going to try the Canadians with the auto cars, but I am not going to play the British. Like, if I had to pick a force to play and you're going to let me pick anything, I'm picking these guys last. And that's because I think some of the other lists are just that good, that much more interesting.
But Mitch, if you don't choose the British, when would you be able to say tally ho or dilly dilly or any of the other amazing catchphrases that the Brits have?
I could just say it with a French accent.
Well, I guess you could do that.
I suppose.
And speaking of the French,
Yeah, they're next up, aren't they?
yeah. So the French, the hosts of this, they have the special rule: they shall not pass.
Which you have to say in a Gandalf voice.
They shall not pass. I would just say it like no c'est pas. Anyway, and you get a better counterattack. They get trench fighter, and if you're going to take artillery to bombard, the Sans Quixote, the 75, that's the one you're going to take.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Reroll successful hits and with one weapon instead of 2. That's really good.
All right. So I mean, the French are. I dig them. So one of the changes that they made is when the Harlem Hellfighters originally came out. I made them an American force under the Americans, but in reality, they fought with French helmets, French guns, French kit. The French had no problems integrating them into their army. They were very happy. with the Harlem Hellfighters, which was the 369th. They really incorporated them and welcomed them. So Wayne decided to put the Harlem Hellfighters here. And I got to be honest, I think that was a smart idea.
I think I like for a design option. I think it fits well.
Yeah. With that, you have your infantry, which are Fusiliers, and then your Russian Fusiliers.
The Fusilier Company. This is a ridiculous amount of infantry for the cheapest option you can get. Like in the Fusilier Company, you can bring 8 platoons of Fusiliers.
Yeah, but the reluctant vet.
Reluctant vet, which I don't know if you've ever heard it, but the best kind of vet is reluctant vet because they're cheap vets.
Yeah, unless you have to take a last stand.
Well, who's taking last stands with nine stands of infantry? You can take 2/3 losses before you're even trying.
Yeah,
and then you
lose down quite a ways.
You lose a platoon of infantry. You have 7 more of them.
Yes, and the cool thing about it is that you can take it. It's 5 rifle teams, 2 rifle grenade, and 2 show. But you can add more stuff to them than almost any other nation. You could add flamethrowers, a 37 millimeter gun
for 3 points.
Yes,
for 3 points you can get.
Yeah, so I mean the French are good, and they really all. You'll see that they're all kind of built the same. These lists, between them, it's just, what kind of flavor do you want?
Exactly. So the French are a little bit cheaper because of that reluctant status, but you can field more things on the table. So you have that tactical ability to move and take losses in one part of the field while playing a list like the Germans. You can't take many losses from the Germans. Now they're better, overall, but you cannot take as many hits as playing this Fusilier list.
Yeah, you get more infantry here than anywhere else. You could take 4 mortars. I really want to say platoons when I look at these boxes. And you could take 2 types of mortars, and we'll get into them in a minute. And then you can take the machine gun platoons. But the Metropolitan, or the French troops from France, are by and far a very large, cheap force. Even taking 4 Hotchkiss machine guns, which aren't half bad, it's 15 points at reluctant vet.
Which is that's 15 points for 24 shots.
Now they do get either the 76 millimeter Stokes or the 58 millimeter Type 2, and the Type 2 is a lot like the Minenwerfer. It's firepower 2 up, which if this was another game, we call it a breakthrough gun. But you get some really good flavor here if they're mortars. And remember, if you put these guys in a trench line, they're going to stick around for a little bit.
Yeah, and going from the 76 to the 58 millimeter, 5 to 6 points. I would absolutely pay 1 point for a 2-up firepower.
Yeah, for 2-up. Yeah, that's an auto buy.
Yeah, and you could take 2 of them. I mean, you could take 4 of them.
Total.
And yeah.
Total, yes.
So I mean, I think the French really have some great options if you could get around some of the nuances with their units. So if you go into the Compagnie des Tirailleurs, it's the same essential formation, but here are your fearless vets. And
you pay for it.
Oh, you pay for it. Yeah, because you're paying 5 points for the platoon more for the better stats. But I mean, they get trench fighters.
Yeah, this is
just like the other one.
Yeah, this is the one where if you really want to be on the offensive, you take the Tirailleurs and you're going to go at it. And you're going to be successful. Just having that, 2-up on assault. That's nice.
Yeah, and the counterattack is with the They Shall Not Pass is a 2-up, which you're always coming back, and that's why I think if you're going to take this, the colonial troops, you really got to max out and take 4 infantry platoons.
Yep. Absolutely.
I have 4 of them painted up.
So you only need 4 more.
Yeah, and some of them are in the horizon blue uniform, and some of them are in the brown. But
Nice.
yeah, that is a difference. And then one of them is black, because I could take them as Harlem Hellfighters, or I could take them as the Tyrellers. So here is the best cavalry in the game.
Yes,
And I'll tell you why. Tell me why.
well, units of 9. First off, so you get more cavalry for the cheaper, 3 points cheaper. You get a larger platoon, confident vet cavalry. These guys have everything.
And if you look at their formation chart, what do they get 2 platoons of at the bottom?
Oh my goodness, they get armored cars.
Cars, yeah.
They get 2 platoons of the best armored car in the game.
Hell yeah. It's an armored car with an actual gun. So and it's very well priced too. 33 points for 3. That's not bad.
Yeah. So with the French cavalry, they're confident vet. You're not losing your rifle grenades. You only get 1 show machine gun. I can live with that. You get the standard machine gun platoon that comes with them. But you get the Auto Militrus platoon, which, as Austin said, is 11 points each. And it has either a 37mm gun or a machine gun that can fire.
Yeah,
one was in the front, one's in the back.
AT4, that
which is nice.
You can go toe to toe with German 87B.
Yeah, you can absolutely just run these guys up. 3 of them. That's 3 shots on the move, or 6 shots at 16-inch range, and just pepper those little tanks, and then send your cavalry in to do what they do best.
Yeah, so it's a bona fide anti-tank gun. But I think with the cavalry, you need this to keep up with that AT. Because if I'm taking French infantry, it mounts the same 37mm gun I could take with my infantry, and I could take 1 per platoon. So
this is true, but with the infantry, you're foot slogging it. So
yeah,
you can't blitz it. You can't. You're going just as fast with it. Actually, you're going a little bit slower. So this is a little bit faster gun.
You have to take them with the cavalry.
Yeah, no, this is just I think this is an overall great addition to a cavalry force. This is the anti-tank gun that can keep up with the cavalry. And I say keep up in quotations.
As best as it can. But I mean, you have nothing else that can kill tanks. And you can get an additional platoon in support.
Yeah, so for 66 points, you can bring 9 of them. Oh my goodness.
And there's another little cool thing in here too about the Cavaliers is they got VB teams.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
You've got rifle grenades. Whereas the British did not, as I recall.
Yeah. So I mean, when you dismount them, you're losing 1 show. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think it's the best cavalry in the game.
And it's the cheapest too. It's I can't believe that it's better and cheaper. I can't believe it. I can't believe it's not butter. Oh my goodness.
Well, and you'll also notice too, they are not a 5 to stick around.
No, they're the confident. I mean,
they're confident. Yeah.
Your cavalry, you're better than the average foot slogger.
I mean, it's still not worth taking these guys and dismounting them, because you can take cheaper or better infantry. But if you want that mobility, I think I'm looking forward to playing the French cavalry.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I think this is going to be, interesting. Next are the Russians, and during the war, the Russians had a lot of manpower, but not a lot of materiel. And they said, send them over here. We'll put them to work in France. They were disbanded a couple of times, believe it or not. They fought bravely, but there were a couple of times where they were just like, after the Russian Revolution, why should we fight? A lot of these people stayed in France after the war. They get trench fighter, and they get attack at all costs.
Attack at all costs is a really cool rule.
Yeah, and it is. Tell me where I got this from.
So, where did you get this from?
Yeah,
this feels like a very Japanese-esque rule.
It's the Banzai rule.
Yeah. When you fall back in defensive fire, you get to go again. You take a you pass an immediate counterattack test. You go in. Now you get another round of defensive fire, which sucks, but it's better than waiting a whole nother turn to see if you can go back in for the charge.
You dying anyway, standing there. Might as well die charging.
Get it done. Might as well get it done.
Yeah, same essential formation as the other units. They are fearless trained. They are hit on a 3-up, and it's the same basic. You could beef these guys up, and it's 12 points for the platoon with all of the added extras. I thought these guys with the extra rule, I think they're interesting to play. Look, they fought hard towards the end of the war, and they especially fought next to the Moroccans, which were another ferocious fighting nation, and they had come with all the support. I dig them. Am I going to play them? No, I'm playing the guys that are coming next, actually.
Okay.
And I've played them before. I played Harlem Hellfighters. I think moving them here was a smart idea. In the digital downloads, the rule was separate but not equal. Whereas if you took Harlem Hellfighter unit, you couldn't take any other American units because there was no integration. In this, they put them with the French, and I think that's awesome. They get all the French rules of trench fighter. They shall not pass. But they get Men of Bronze, which they get a better last stand rating of 2-up. So these guys aren't going anywhere.
No, they're going to fight to the last man.
Yeah.
And 13 points per platoon with all of the bells and whistles that you get extra. I think that these are a very fun French list that are not going to break the bank.
No, I mean, it's going to break your U.S. dollar bank. To buy all of these models. But
and
good problem to have.
There are other problems.
It's a really good problem to have. I've played with these guys, and I took them with a Metropolitan French platoon running. So in Great War, I always run 3 infantry platoons as a minimum. You just need it in this game. And now that you can mix and match better than you ever could before, that I think these guys, I'm probably going to run them the same way as I did before, the same composition. But, I have more options if I want to do the Russians instead of the Metropolitan, or maybe run this with cavalry.
Yeah, cavalry would be a good one to run these guys with.
Yeah, that's a really interesting idea.
Rush the cavalry up to get somewhere, and then have these guys follow up behind and hold the gain.
Yeah, because they're standard French infantry, and you could take a ton of them, and just coming up behind the cavalry, because it's both of those forces do 2 different things. I think it's going to give your opponent fits. Plus, you don't know what mission you can end up playing.
Yeah,
that's true. So it gives you the option to do a trench fight or an open ground fight.
Yeah, and then now we're going to get to the best painted tanks in the game. I got a bunch of these. I got to be honest, they've never seen the table. But you have the Schneider and the Char Saint-Chamond tank, which has a 75 millimeter gun in it.
Which is ridiculous. AT-8 for, at best, front number 1 tanks, but all right. Give it to the French to overcompensate.
And look at all the machine guns you get.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I mean the Saint-Chamond. I mean that was the same brilliant artillery piece that the French had. It wasn't the original piece that they had in the tank when they first made them, but they sort of figured out maybe we should put like a decent gun in them, and so it makes sense.
Sure enough, they did. I mean, if you already have it, you might as well use it.
Yeah.
So I got to give him a plug because I love playing Great War games, but John Gorskowski, this is the second podcast in a row where we mentioned John Gorskowski, who wrote a series of books, a series of games, Red Poppies. They're board hex encounter games. And his next game is called Assault Artillery. And it features where these tanks were used in a massive attack.
Okay.
So The Schneider does have a gun on it. I think giving it a 16-inch range it's a very small gun. Matter of fact, do you own these, Tom?
Yes, I do.
I mean, it's barely protrudes outside of the sponson. I mean,
Yeah. It was not
yeah.
It was not a good gun.
It was not a good gun. Giving it AT5, I think, is also generous. Because it was a smoothbore gun. It was, it's not it's the tank killer here in the Great War, and it's only on the left side of the tank. So,
yeah, I'm glad they got the left side mounted.
Now you could see here that the tank's left side is facing you. You can't even see the gun.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, if you sneeze when you're building it, you will not have the blockhouse gun. But the tanks I did take are the next, and it's the only tanks you could take in a platoon are the Renault FT-17 assault tanks. You could take up to 5 of them for 36 points, and you don't get to mix and match machine guns with the 37 millimeter. You kind of have to take, if you take 2, it's one of each. Yeah.
Okay.
They move 6. These are the only tanks. The last time I played in a tournament, I took these tanks with Harlem Hellfighters and that French platoon. They did rather well. These things sucked up so many shots, and I think I took 4 of them, which was pretty expensive. But it's one of the they're 7 point each for the tanks. They're not bad.
Yeah, for 7 points each, that's competitively priced for what you're getting. And in Great War, you can actually use these. You can use these in early war, and they're really crap tanks.
Same model.
But, it's the same model. And to see them in Great War, these stats are actually really kind of good. And for 7 points apiece, that's actually really good.
So I'm going to give a shout out to Jay Michaud, a guy that you and I both know. So when we played a Shanghai 1937 historical scenario he wrote, he had these tanks in the game fighting against the Japanese tanks.
Nice.
Well, you know what is really neat? The F-17 actually is probably just as good as the Hago, and if not better.
There were a lot of these made, and they were exported all over the place.
Yeah. There's one in the West Point Museum, I think.
Yeah. Well, there's one down at the World War I National Museum too, down in Kansas City.
I need to go there.
Oh, and the one that they have, it took an artillery round kind of in the butt, and so it's kind of quite the thing to see.
It's broken.
It's got more than a divot.
Let's just say it doesn't run.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, my son's school's a block away. It would take him an hour to get there in the tank. So why buy it to give it to him? I don't know. So let's go to the Americans. Americans really are unchanged. If you played the first version and you bought the Marines digital download, US comes, essentially they're French platoons. They're French companies. They're built the same way. You could take
They're armed with the same equipment.
They're armed with the same equipment, the same upgrades that you can get with the 37 millimeter, the flamethrowers. Oddly enough, I hope when they do this that you can buy American flamethrower troops, because in the last one you had to use French models. So, but it's 11 points for the 42nd, which was a National Guard division.
These are the train guys, right?
Yep. And then the vets, they go up to 14.
Yeah, Big Red 1, 14 points. Yeah. Which for vets, 3 points for a vet platoon. That's a worthy investment.
That's not bad.
So, what was the first U.S. Marine list to ever come out for Flames of War? It wasn't the Pacific. It was these guys next. I like these guys. I think that with the special rules, that these guys are a lot of fun to play. And let's go over some of those special rules. They got a really good counterattack called Retreat Hell. Every Marine's a rifleman.
This is I like this rule. This really fits in well with a Marine.
Yeah, and it's Dan Daly was a machine gunner, and he kept his machine guns close to the infantry. And then here's the best rule I think that people hate is that U.S. Marine rifle teams do not have the slow firing rule.
Well, like they say, every Marine's a rifleman, and
right.
They spend all that time on the range.
Let's look at what you're getting here. You're getting fearless vets, because by 1918 they kind of were. You get the over there rally that all Americans get. They get a better rally rating, which is a special rule I guess we should have gone over with the Americans, of a 2-up. They are the best American infantry out of the 3. Once again, no difference in formation, but these are really dedicated, nasty trench fighters. And at 17 points, it would be interesting to see these guys go against Stas.
Mm-hmm.
But who would win?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you throw in that Hotchkiss that can be integrated into that platoon. It's going to give you a heck of a rate of fire.
Not only that, you don't get slow firing.
Yeah.
So, you look at Stas, and James pointed it out, it's a pistol team.
These guys have rifle teams, so
yeah,
you're going to be able to get a round of shooting in before you get anywhere.
Yeah, so it's going to be kind of rough. And then they could take French and British tanks. Any French and British tanks. The only U.S. tanks they could take, of course, are the
FT-17s.
The FT-17. So, if you look at their force diagram, it's the least sexy out of all of them. But that's what you get for showing up late to the party.
Yeah.
So, believe it or not, it's the only American troops I own in any game.
Really?
Yeah. It's the only...
It's because he has too many Canadian troops.
Yeah. Yeah, and I have a lot of stuff. I mean, it was weird because, I own 2 Abrams because I could bring them with my Canadian Team Yankee stuff. It's the only Americans I ever painted in my collection. So, yeah, those are the Americans. They could take a French artillery battery. I mean, they use all French equipment. French were very good to us. I don't know why we bash them so much now. And next is the other one we added. I keep forgetting about these guys. I don't know why. Is the Belgians.
The Belgians.
Well, it's a very small force diagram, but it's a really good force.
They only get one unit, is an infantry unit. Let's look at their special rules. Not another inch. So, I mean, they only held a small portion of Belgium, and not the pretty part. So they get good counterattack. They have a really good rally rating, and really, other than that, they're pretty much a French unit. With my French that are painted in brown, it's the same color, but they're reluctant. But they're 8 points.
I was about to say these are basically the reluctant trained. Well, these are reluctant trained instead of reluctant vet. But like you're saying, 8 points, and you can bring 6 platoons of this infantry, supported by heavy machine gun platoon for 11 points for 4 guns. Not another inch and a rally rating like that. These are going to be a great line holding force. And not just that. Yeah, they don't have trench fight or anything like that, but with the better counter assault rating and the numbers that you can bring, in an assault, the more dice you roll, the deadlier you get. And at 8 points apiece, these guys would be really useful in an assault.
Yeah, they only get 2 mortars, and they only get the 3-inch Stokes mortar, the British mortar. But I mean, they're a fun little force. They do get all the upgrades that the French get. Essentially, there's a lot of different flavors of French in this game.
And this is a nice flavor of French. You go down to their support option. We talk about how artillery batteries, the 4 guns are so expensive.
Not here.
The Belgians.
Nope. 28
Yeah.
points for 4 of them is not bad.
And
Yeah.
the quick firing rule.
Yeah.
Yep, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's
And with the improved rally, that reluctant, pin the artillery so it can't do anything. Oh, and they're reluctant. They're never going to do anything. A 4-up rally is not that bad.
Yep, and you could take a full complement of heavy tanks. You could take one, 0 to 4, or you could take one platoon of FT-17s, which is good because you're not attacking with these guys. But this is my cheap. If you're playing 100 points, I'd say you dedicate 50-50 to attack and to defense. And I think through these lists, you have both. But with the allies, you just have so many more options because you could take allied platoons.
That's just something I was seeing as a general rule across the allied lists. Like, all of the allied lists here have that improved counterattack. Was that supposed to be a thematic, like towards the end of the war, the allies were just in a better morale position where they were more engaged in the fight, or did it just work out that way?
Well, they generally were, though, because the Germans in early 1918 had kind of thrown everything from the west or from the east front over onto the west front, and they were really trying to do a big push before the Americans were able to get fully engaged. And after the German offensive petered out, then the Allies really sensed the opportunity that they had, and they did their best to exploit it. Granted, I think the French were still pretty reluctant to do much because they'd really fought hard over the past 4 years, and they were kind of done.
I mean, and you can only do so many over-the-top trench charges before I'd be done too.
Yeah.
Plus, look at it this way from a German's point of view. If you retreat 500 yards, you're retreating 500 yards of French territory.
Yeah.
Why should I? The Germans had the counterattack. That was their whole thing, is hold the line loosely and then counterattack right away. It's, morale rules. Tom hit it right on the head. I mean, that's just kind of how it was. And it just kind of gives different flavor between the two sides. And, by 1918, you had two very tired armies fighting against each other with, to the layperson, you would say there's no difference between the two. Is to throw in some more flavor.
Well, which is a really good thing. And, with social media going, V4 was not historical at all, to see the flavor added into it, with so many reluctant lists. Yeah, but at the end of the war, no one wants to fight. So to see that in the main list building options, I think that adds a whole lot of, not just flavor, but historical aspect to a system that, yes, it's not this, the 19th Brigade. This is a French infantry force. Build it the way you want. It adds that historical aspect into the game where people would say, oh, it's not historical at all.
Yeah. And I think that it's, especially in researching it, I know I'm going to get beat up for the Finnish Jaegers, but it's historical. I mean, Austin's been to my house. It was many years ago. He could tell you I got a lot of books, and some of them I even read. And it's just doing the research. I thought was a lot of fun for this. The missions. If you guys remember the missions from the, they were special missions just for Great War, Big Push, Through the Mud and Blood, Greenfields. Those are all made their return. What is interesting is I ran a competition when the other book came out of guys writing scenarios, and we gave them a free army box, and I have those somewhere. We'll have to put them out on our site, but they were not included, which is fine. But now you're going to get in also to, like, there are some different rules as you go through this, where you have the cratered ground rule, which is a horrible rule at times, because whenever a stationary infantry team is in cratered ground, it's in bulletproof cover, which is historically accurate, but they're tough to get rid of. You also get waylaid reserves, which is at the beginning of a turn. Turn 3, all units and waylaid reserves are placed on the tables if they had arrived from reserves. So it's just, a different way of getting reserves on the table. You also have all the gun pits, machine gun nest special rule. You also have the overwhelming force. There's two things in here that I am so glad it's still in this. Overwhelming force. You're the attacker. Your first platoon gets wiped out. You could reconstitute it.
Yep, bring it right back and keep going.
Keep it back. And then it also this also has preliminary bombardment where all of your units will start out pinned if you're the defender.
Yeah.
So
overwhelming force is a wave attack, basically, from
it is.
V3.
Yeah, exactly.
I like how they simplified it.
Why have they?
No, I said I like that they simplified it.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a neat rule because we don't expect you to buy 8 platoons of infantry, I guess, or who the hell's going to paint that? One thing that folks should know if you're starting to get interested in playing Great War, it is not played on a 6x4. It's played on a 4x4 table, and you're now dealing with mass infantry on a 4x4 table. And people are like, oh, good God, it's going to be a parking lot like Team Yankee. Yeah, but guess what, folks? In the Great War, you had the parking lots of humanity. I think this plays amazing on a 4x4 table. It's also, that's how big the trenches that you can buy are. So, and not
also,
every...
On a 6x4, think about how long it would take to walk across a 6-foot table. Like, moving 8 inches per turn in your little old wheeled vehicle, you're never going to get across the table.
No,
right.
No, you're not. And your tanks are slow on top of that, so, condensing down to a 4x4, it's all for the better.
Yeah, you could play it on a 6x4 if you have that kind of time. The trenches... It's the only terrain I own is the trench set because it was beautiful.
Yeah,
it does look beautiful, and my local game store has one of the old trench sets. And just looking at these pictures, like, I think that's what I'm going to go buy tomorrow.
Yep. Yeah, they're awesome.
They are. Barbed
wire is a must. You do have barbed wire in this game. I built my own, but it's the
old V3 barbed wire set.
Yeah, it's the old V3 barbed wire set.
So keep your barbed wire from V4.
Yeah. So did you do your built barbed wire, Mitch? The World War I way, where it's the, it's not coils. It's things where they drove it into the ground and then they ran it around from post to post.
I did the coils because I used the same barbed wire I used for my World War II.
Okay.
But there's a few that I tried with on the 6x2.
Yeah.
Where I put the the glue in the spikes and then ran it around because they have the display here of it.
Mm-hmm.
How it was like a box, and yeah, I tried doing that, but it kept breaking. So I just need to get better barbed wire.
It's hard to make your own. It really is.
Michaels, they have some of the jewelry making stuff, and it looks just like barbed wire.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And I think Gale Force 9 does sell wire.
Just spooled wire.
That's spooled, yeah.
Yeah. And so I bought that.
Yeah.
And this is between us. Like, nobody will hear this. But it was the same thing they were selling at Michaels for $1.
Okay.
So, yeah, let's make sure that doesn't get out. Oh, wait. We're on a podcast, yeah.
We'll cut here.
No, yeah. No. People can hear. So when this comes out, there will be box sets for all of the nations. If you're asking for where your Belgian box set is, it's Cleary's Chargers. It's the French box set. I'm excited for this. And a lot of it is when I've played in a few Great War events, other than 1 or 2 people, it was a different crowd than played Flames of War. Now, this was also as Team Yankee was in its infancy, that there are guys that really love Great War. And, I'm glad that they have this game now to play. I will say right away that, what would be more interesting to play, and I'm not knocking it because that would be so hypocritical of me. 1914 is really interesting. Eastern Front is interesting. The Turks and the Brits in Mesopotamia, interesting. German East Africa is very interesting. But, let's look at what is iconic about the Great War, and it is the fighting on the Western Front. And I think for an infantry game that this is an amazing snapshot of what that fighting was like. Like I said, you don't need trenches for all of these battles. But if you're waiting, for Great War to get expanded and throw in some really cool stuff, to me, the cool stuff is the same old models, but with different and more interesting lists. Because the armored cars, I'm going to get them, and I'm going to get the cavalry. But a lot of it was the flavor of infantry got broader, deeper. That to me is what always has drawn me to playing Great War. So I know that I'm going to have a lot of fun playing this. The problem is, unless Austin moves further north or I move further south, we're going to have to get guys that really want to be interested in playing this, where, Tom, you don't have that problem, do you?
It's what I've seen that's really interesting out of kind of the before Nam and Fate of a Nation, all that kind of good stuff. The Flames of War crowd has gotten more open into playing other eras. So I think this is actually a good time for, essentially kind of this reboot and expansion. And I think, we're going to see more of this get picked up by the people that are playing Flames today too.
Well, all those people that play Flames would be happy to know, one of the biggest complaints that V4, mid-war, and now late war get is it's a tank-centric game. Yeah. And, Team Yankee is all about the vehicles. And What do I do with all my infantry? Well, play Great War, where it's very obviously an infantry-centric game.
Yeah, because the tanks in this game, they're slow. Let's be honest, the armored cars are going to get stuck. And I've played it with the tanks just to see how it plays out. To me, with the smaller table, with the trenches, with the special rules, this is such a fun, interesting infantry game that I dig it.
It looks great. It's unique models, unique war fighting styles, and just the history time period in general for warfare. For any student of the history of warfare, there's just, they call it the Great War for a reason, and there's a reason 100 years later we still talk about this, we still make games about it. It grasps the imagination, and it forces you to think outside the box.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can't wait to play this a lot more than I have been. It kind of sat on the shelf for a little bit, but now that with this coming, the excitement's all roaring back.
Mine has not seen a table for easily 2 years.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because it's, the gaming crowd here is really into what's new, what's hot. But we also have a lot of competitive players that, they want to get their Flames games in, for proficiency. So you got to beg, borrow, and that's why I'm happy Austin is trying this game.
Yeah,
because it's fun. It's such a great game.
Yeah. I played over the last year probably about 4 times with the Great War and V3.
I might move back to the Upper Midwest, man.
So yeah, go figure. But yeah, that it's gonna be a lot more here now.
A lot more snow than you're used to, Mitch.
Yeah, that's true. So. And then to spoil something too, it's Tom. I read it and I was so impressed with it. But you wrote a lot of the lists for the forces that fought in other theaters and in different periods of the war.
I did, and now I got to go back and revisit all that.
But I looked, and you pretty much got it pretty close.
Yeah.
You had the Austin armored cars, I believe, right?
I did, yeah.
Yeah, and the cavalry.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, yep. I can't wait to play this, man. So what are you buying? Tell me what you're buying.
So I've already got queued up in my paint queue French and Americans that I picked up during the sale, but of course there's additional stuff in here that I hadn't really come to grasp that, oh, this is what's coming. So I got to go. I've got another round of having to go hit the store and buy stuff. So certainly the armored cars, and definitely it's going to be Cav for sure.
Yeah, I think the Cav. What about you, Austin? You said you got most of it already?
Well, no, I got cavalry stuff, but after seeing it, I want to go back and get infantry now for the Anzacs because while there's not a Gallipoli force, that is the force that I want to build. So, I'd base them a little bit differently, but definitely going back. And I can't get away from infantry companies. I love them.
Same guys that fought at Gallipoli.
Yep.
Yeah. But you know what, guys, I'm optimistic that someday I think Battlefront's going to release something to represent that era. I just see that coming because every time they come back to the Great War, they've expanded it just a little bit more and made it a little bigger.
Oh, and yeah. I mean, you're telling me not adding the Austrians and the Italians into the war wouldn't, it's a business model. It's more models to sell. It's stuff to sell.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I sent it to Wayne. I did write the Austrians, and they were really crappy Germans.
Yeah.
Which is really what they are. There was an Austrian unit that fought on the Western Front, and there was an Italian unit that fought on the Western Front.
Yeah.
And not a lot written about them because they were really bad. It's when you do the Belgians, what's the trade-off there? Because if you make it historically accurate, no one's going to play it.
Yeah.
So
not just historically accurate, but I mean, you have to, like you said, there's not a lot of stuff written about them, so it's the finding the information that's out there and then figuring out a way to make it fit in the context of the existing game rule to make it a playable force.
Yeah. So I'm going to do some shopping. And, we've been at this for a while. Hopefully you folks out there are also excited about it. I'm going to see if we can get some of this going in the local area here. And I know Tom's going to be running a ton of stuff. But, if you guys are interested in this, I am sure somebody in your local area has this. Try this game out. I mean, I don't get a profit if this sells 1 million copies or not.
A really neat way to run this is so you don't just dump money into models and stuff like that. Use your existing forces that you have and just use it's the V4 rule set. Do it on a 4x4 table. Use a proxy your good old Sherman tank or something. Use some proxy games. See if you like it. If you like it, then like Mitch said, these models are beautiful, and get into a new era that way.
Yeah, I am totally excited for this. The cards, you can buy all the cards for all these forces in 4 packs. So I'm buying that. I'm buying the cavalry. I'm buying all the armored cars. If I have any money left over, I would probably get another platoon of infantry in each nationality.
Well, it must be nice to make $1 million a year, Mitch.
Yeah, tell me about that when you make $1 million a year.
That's gonna be a while for me, but no, I agree. This is exciting, but after 2.5 hours of talking about it, now I want to go and do force building.
It hasn't been that long. It's been a long time. So, and then the other big one is Tom. So today's broadcast was brought to you by Tom's knowledge and ingenuity of computers, more so than any of us at No Dice, No Glory. And I think we're going to be hearing a lot more from him on the podcast. And Tom, if you want to send it back to Sean, man, that'd be awesome.
All right. Well, happy to help out. So back to you, Sean.
Thanks so much for joining the show tonight. Remember to follow us on Twitter at No Dice, No Glory, and keep the conversation going on NoDiceNoGlory.com, now featuring our own message boards. Have a great night, everybody.